Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm so thrilled you're here with us today because we are heading into some truly incredible territory.
We really are. It's a fantastic topic today.
Yeah, it is. I want you to start by picturing a fantasy world. You know, you've got the classic elements, right?
Right. Towering stone castles.
Exactly. Castles, people wielding extraordinary magical abilities, maybe dragons circling in a distant stormy sky.
Standard tropes.
Right. But I want you to step back and ask yourself, what if the magic system in that world wasn't a divine gift from the gods?
Or just some mystical energy field you tap into.
Yeah, what if it wasn't that at all? What if instead that magic was actually a perfect, terrifying, and brilliant metaphor for modern real-world economics?
And brutal class struggle.
Yes, brutal class struggle.
It is a phenomenal premise for a story, and honestly, an even better one for our analysis today.
I completely agree.
Because today's mission is all about exploring how systemic power is built, how it's deliberately hidden from the people it exploits, and ultimately what it takes to dismantle it.
We are going to be unpacking the architecture of inequality.
Using a very specific, very sharp lens.
And the source material we are using to guide this custom deep dive for you today is the young adult fantasy novel, Her Hidden Fire, written by Clíodhna O'Sullivan.
It's such a compelling read.
It really is. This is a book that completely subverts the traditional chosen one narrative. It takes those tropes we all know and turns them into a searing examination of labor, exploitation, and rebellion.
So to give you a brief roadmap of where we're going, we are going to explore the world of Domhain.
Domhain, yeah.
This is a society defined by a rigidly enforced hierarchy. So at the top, you have the Chandlers. They are the aristocrats who wield magical power.
And right alongside them are their keepers.
Exactly. Keepers are essentially the magical engineers that help them manage and direct that power. And then, well, at the bottom, you have everyone else.
The peasants, the workers.
Right. And we are going to uncover a devastating, horrifying secret that literally fuels their entire civilization.
We are going to follow the journey of a young woman named Éadha. She breaks every single rule of this society.
Because this isn't just a story about spells and mythical creatures.
No.
It is a profound study of systemic exploitation and what happens when the marginalized decide they have had enough.
Okay, before we jump into the plot, I think we need to establish how this magic actually works, because it is central to everything.
That's the foundation of the whole world.
Right. You mentioned channelers and keepers. Can you break down the distinction between those two roles? Because it's not just, people who do magic and people who watch.
Not at all. It is a highly specialized, interdependent system. So think of the channelers as the conduits or the batteries.
Okay, the batteries.
Right. They possess the raw genetic capacity to draw in magical power and project it outwards, whether that's to grow crops, build stone walls, or cast fire.
But raw power is chaotic.
Extremely dangerous, and that is where the keepers come in. Keepers are the technicians. They have the ability to see and manipulate the magical energy.
And that energy manifests as these glowing silver threads, right?
Exactly. Living silver threads. A keeper stands behind or beside their channeler, weaving those threads, directing the flow, ensuring the channeler doesn't draw too much power and burn themselves out.
Or draw too little and fail to spell.
Precisely. So the channeler is the engine.
And the keeper is the steering wheel.
And the brakes, yes. And this dynamic is crucial because it immediately establishes that magic in Domhain isn't an individual pursuit.
It's an industrialized process.
Yes, it requires coordination, hierarchy, and, as we will soon discover, a horrific fuel source.
Which brings us right to our starting point. We begin in a place called Ailm's Keep.
A very bleak place.
Oh, incredibly bleak. It's a stark, freezing, austere fortress located north of the Black Stairs Mountains. Life here is incredibly hard.
The winters are brutal.
The wind howls off the peaks, and the peasants who live in the shadow of the keep, they don't even have access to basic crops like wheat.
And why is that?
Because in Domhain, agriculture relies on magic. You need a channeler to force grow crops, and Ailm's Keep hasn't had a channeler in their ruling family for a quarter of a century.
The contrast O'Sullivan paints here is just vital. You have the local villagers scraping by on root vegetables and whatever they can hunt in the freezing cold.
Barely surviving.
Right. And then you have the sheer overwhelming opulence of the channelers in the distant capital city of Ionain, where it's perpetually warm and food is abundant.
The sensory shock of this disparity is incredible. We get this vivid scene early on in the keep's kitchen on the morning of a reckoning day.
It's a great scene.
Our protagonist, Éadha, walks in from the freezing cold. She is a present, a herder. She's used to shivering and eating scraps.
And she walks into the kitchen.
And the tables are just groaning under the weight of food. We're talking mounds of luscious, out-of-season red strawberries.
In the dead of winter.
Heaps of shining nectarines and plump grapes. Warm, freshly baked loaves of white bread. All of this was channeled by master growers and brought over the treacherous mountains on carts specifically for this one day.
And the gut punch is the realization of who that food is actually for.
Exactly. None of this food is for the starving locals. It is strictly for the visiting elite.
The masters who have come to oversee the reckoning.
Yes. The smell of the strawberries mingling with the cold, damp stone of the keep. It's a luxury the locals literally never see, and they are forbidden from touching it.
It's right there in their kitchen.
But it belongs to an entirely different world.
That visual of the force-grown strawberries in the middle of a freezing, starving fortress is such a potent symbol. It perfectly encapsulates the concept of the reckoning.
Let's explain the reckoning.
In Samhain, magic is treated as a divine right of the nobility. When an heir to a ruling family turns 17, they must undergo a high-stakes public test.
Administered by a master reckoner.
Yes, to prove they possess the magic gift.
And the consequences of failing are apocalyptic for that family.
They really are. If an heir fails, and their parent also failed, which is the case of the Ailm's keeper, the family loses everything.
They are stripped of their land,
Their ancestral home, their title, and they are sent out to the rocky, desolate coast to fight dragons. It is essentially a prolonged death sentence.
The pressure on these teenagers is unimaginable. You are 17 years old, standing in a hall in front of everyone you know, and if you don't have this invisible spark inside you, your entire bloodline is ruined.
If we look at this through the lens of real-world socioeconomics, the reckoning is a fascinating mechanism for exploring generational wealth.
And the anxiety of privilege.
Absolutely. It mirrors the intense pressure placed on youth in highly stratified societies to uphold the family's status. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it creates a closed loop.
A closed loop of privilege.
Exactly. The power, both magical and political, stays strictly within the recognized families. And the sheer terror of losing that status, of falling down the social ladder and becoming a peasant, keeps everyone ruthlessly compliant.
The system governs through the fear of downward mobility.
Yes.
Which brings us to our central duo, Éadha and Ionain. Ionain is the 17-year-old heir to Ailm's keep. He is terrified.
He's entirely powerless.
And bearing the weight of his entire family's survival on his shoulders. He knows he doesn't have the magic he's known for years.
And then there's Éadha.
Yeah, Éadha. She is an orphaned peasant girl who works as a sheep herder, but her real job is acting as Ionain's scathe.
Which translates from the local language to his shadow.
His shadow, right. The dynamic between these two is the emotional core of the first act. Their bond is incredibly intimate, forged over years of shared isolation, but it is also inherently unbalanced.
It's entirely one-sided in terms of support.
Totally. The book details how, since they were 8 years old, Éadha has actually slept on a rug on the hard floor of Ionain's bedroom.
Just to comfort him through his night terrors.
Because his mother was too busy nursing his sick older brother to pay attention to him, Éadha is his emotional bedrock. She absorbs all his panic, all his fear, so he can put on a brave face for the keep.
She is the unacknowledged foundation of his strength. The official power structures recognize him as the heir, the lord, the one who matters.
But functionally.
Emotionally, she is holding the entire structure up.
There is this beautiful, desperate moment out on the freezing fell, the hillside where she grazes the sheep. They are alone, the wind is howling, and the reality of the impending reckoning is crushing him.
Then they kiss.
They kiss, and it completely shifts their dynamic. It's the spark of something real and deeply human, a momentary escape from a world governed by rigid, unforgiving rules.
A very universal feeling, I think.
It is. I want you, the listener, to consider a time you had to carry the emotional weight for someone else who held all the official power. That is Éadha's entire existence. She is a peasant carrying a lord.
And that deeply ingrained subservience makes the inciting incident of the novel so deeply ironic.
Okay, let's unpack this scene, because it is thrilling.
It's a great action beat.
Out on the dark, freezing fell, Éadha is working. She is trying to save a yearling sheep that has slipped over a cliff edge. It is pitch black. The rocks are coated in ice. She is hanging on by her fingertips.
Her muscles screaming.
The weight of the terrified animal pulling her down. She is desperate, knowing that losing a sheep means starvation for the keep. And in that moment of pure, raw need, she reaches out into the dark.
And she feels something impossible.
She feels a thread, a living silver thread in the darkness. She doesn't know what it is, but her survival instinct takes over. She pulls on it.
And suddenly she is flooded with an immense, terrifying power.
The cold vanishes, her muscles flood with energy. She hauls herself and the heavy sheep up the vertical cliff face with impossible, effortless strength.
It is a stunning revelation. A peasant girl, an orphan with no family name, a herder whose hands are calloused and dirty.
Possessing a power that is supposed to be the exclusive divine right of the nobility.
She has the magic.
But her reaction to this discovery is what really blew my mind. She doesn't have a villain origin story moment.
She doesn't look at her glowing hands and laugh maniacally.
Right, she doesn't declare herself the new queen of Ailm's Keep. She instantly, without a single second of hesitation, plans to use this power to save Ionain's family.
Her immediate thought process is so telling.
It's like, great, I can be the Keep's channeler, I can magically pass this power to him during the ceremony, and he can save the day.
This reaction is a masterclass in illustrating internalized oppression. If we pause and analyze her instinct, why does she immediately defer her power to him?
Because it's all she knows.
Exactly. It highlights how deeply ingrained her subservience is. She doesn't even view herself as the protagonist of her own life story.
She views himself as a tool.
A shadow, existing merely to fix his problems and uphold the very system that subjugates her. She thinks she's making a heroic, romantic sacrifice, but she is actually just reinforcing the status quo.
She can't even conceive of a reality where a peasant girl gets to keep her own power. She assumes it must be a mistake of the universe.
And her job is to correct it by giving the power to the rightful lord.
Precisely. The illusion of choice is powerful here. She believes she is acting out of love, but her love has been entirely shaped by the boundaries of her caste.
It's heartbreaking to realize how small she has made herself.
It really is. But her grand plan to simply hand over the power hits a horrific roadblock. And this brings us to the dark secret at the core of Domhain's magic.
The reason the magic system is such a brilliant economic metaphor.
Yes. There's a character named Magritte, the Keep's choir master. She is a fascinating, cynical woman who has her own deeply buried secrets, and she realizes what Éadha is planning.
Magritte is not about to let her do that blindly.
No, Magritte pulls Éadha aside and decides it is time for the peasant girl to see the truth about where channeler magic actually comes from.
This is the turning point of the narrative. The concept we are about to explore is the defining metaphor of the book, and it is chilling.
It's what we might call the extraction economy.
Yes. Magritte takes Éadha away from the warmth of the upper halls and leads her deep into the hidden, freezing, damp caves beneath the keep.
Down into places the servants are never allowed to go.
And there, in the gloom, Éadha sees them. The fodder.
The fodder. It is a deeply unsettling term.
It is entirely dehumanizing.
Éadha looks into these dark rooms and sees regular, unmagical people. They are often peasants who couldn't pay their taxes, or petty criminals, or political dissidents.
And they are kept in the dark.
Chained to the walls, kept in a permanent drug-induced comatose state, they sit in rows, holding hands to form a continuous circuit.
And Magritte explains the terrible truth.
That when the channelers and their keepers perform magic, when they build those soaring castles, or when they force grow those luscious strawberries in the dead of winter, they aren't pulling magic from the air.
They are reaching out with those silver threads.
And draining the life force directly out of these chained human beings.
What's fascinating here is how the magic is literal human consumption.
Yes. They are consuming human lives to fund their luxury. The fodder are slowly drained until they die, at which point they are quietly disposed of and replaced with fresh bodies.
That is the secret of the masters.
This is where the novel's socio-political critique becomes searingly explicit.
In the author's note, Clíodhna O'Sullivan provides crucial context for this metaphor. She specifically mentions her own background working grueling, low-wage jobs.
As a fruit picker, a cleaner, a factory worker.
She talks about seeing the extraction economy for what it truly is. A system designed to grind up the bodies, the time, and the energy of the marginalized to produce wealth, comfort, and luxury for those safely at the top.
It's capitalism stripped of its disguises.
Exactly. The magic system in Domhain is not just a whimsical fantasy element. It is a literalization of that harsh economic reality.
It strips away all the euphemisms.
Right. We often talk about human capital or labor costs in the real world, which can obscure the physical toll of that labor. In Domhain, the elite are literally magically feeding on the working class.
The strawberries taste sweet to the masters because they don't have to see the chained peasants who died to grow them.
Now, we are simply reporting the author's thematic framework here, exploring the ideas presented in the source material. But it is an incredibly potent, visceral way to visualize systemic inequality.
It forces you to confront the hidden costs of opulence.
It does.
It makes my skin crawl just visualizing those damp caves. And for Éadha, who has spent her whole life idolizing the nobility and dreaming of their magic, the moral crisis is immediate and absolute.
She is utterly revulsed.
She looks at her own hands at this beautiful silver gift she just discovered, and she vows right then and there to Margaret that she will never, ever use her power.
She is horrified to her core that her ability is intrinsically tied to such profound human suffering,
She refuses to become a parasite
which sets up an agonizing dilemma for the plot.
because the reckoning ceremony is imminent.
Exactly. Éadha has sworn a moral vow not to use her power, but Ionain is walking into a public test he is destined to fail.
If he fails, he and his entire family are exiled to their deaths.
The tension is incredible.
We are heading into what I think of as the Great Lie. But before we get to the ceremony itself, I want to geek out over the magic mechanics. We need to discuss how Éadha even survives having magic in the first place, because the masters are constantly scanning the minds of the people around them.
The mechanics of concealment. It is a fascinating psychological defense mechanism.
Margaret, who turns out to be a master of this, teaches Éadha how to build a thought wall.
Basically, if a master reckoner comes poking around in your brain looking for a magical spark, you have to hide it perfectly.
You can't just think nothing, because a blank mind is suspicious.
Instead, Margaret teaches her to weave together intensely mundane sensory memories.
Like the feeling of the scratchy charcoal when drawing a map.
The smell of wet wool when herding sheep, the sound of the wind.
You take those ordinary memories and you use a tiny microscopic spark of your own power to animate them, weaving them into a dense wall.
So when a master pushes into your mind, all they see is the dull, uninteresting interior life of a peasant.
You literally brick your true power away behind a wall of ordinary thoughts.
It's a beautiful, tragic concept. It speaks to the experience of the marginalized having to mask their true potential.
Burying their intelligence, their strength.
Or their identity. Burying it behind a carefully constructed facade of the mundane, simply to survive the scrutiny of an elite class that would view their true selves as a threat.
That brings us to the climax in the Great Hall. The entire village is gathered. The stained glass windows are gleaming. Hundreds of wax candles are floating in the air.
Kept aloft by the casual, arrogant magic of Ionain's cruel uncle, Lord Hweth.
And Ionain, pale and trembling, steps up onto the dais. Master Dathan, this massive, imposing reckoner in heavy robes, steps forward.
He places his large hands on either side of Ionain's head.
The entire hall falls dead silent. The fate of the keep hangs on this one moment.
The author paces this scene masterfully. Dathan closes his eyes, searching the boy's mind.
And the silence stretches.
And the frown on the reckoner's face deepens. He is finding nothing.
Éadha is standing in the choir stalls, just inches away from the dais, maintaining her thought wall. She sees Dathan's confusion turning into grim certainty.
She sees Ionain's eyes widen in sheer terror as he realizes it's over.
His life, his family's legacy, it's all turning to ash in real time. And Éadha looks at the boy she loves, the boy she has protected since they were children, and she breaks her vow.
She makes a fateful decision in a fraction of a second.
She drops her thought wall. She reaches deep into that well of power she promised never to touch. But crucially, she bypasses the fodder entirely.
She doesn't pull from the chained people below.
Right. She draws purely on her own immense generated internal strength, and she violently funnels a massive surge of raw power directly into Ionain.
And Dathan, the reckoner, feels the sudden explosive surge. He assumes it's a late-blooming, deeply buried gift bursting forth from Ionain.
He steps back stunned and declares the boy a success, a powerful channeler.
Ionain is saved. The family's status is secured.
But the cost of this deception is staggering.
It really is, because Éadha has just trapped them both in a life-altering lie.
And here is the kicker. She doesn't even tell Ionain she did it.
He genuinely believes he suddenly manifested magic at the last possible second.
This is a moment we need to scrutinize.
Yes, because it raises a profound ethical question that the novel wrestles with constantly. Éadha forces magic into him and alters the course of his life without his knowledge.
Is this the ultimate act of selfless, sacrificial love?
Or is it a massive betrayal of Ionain's autonomy?
I mean, I have to defend her instinct here. What was her alternative? If she doesn't intervene, he is publicly stripped of his title and sent to a freezing rocky coast to be eaten by dragons.
True.
Can we really blame a teenage girl for choosing his physical survival over his autonomy in a split-second panic? She saved his life.
She absolutely saved his life, and the stakes justify her panic. However, we have to look at the long-term ramifications of the lie.
It gets complicated.
Very. By saving him this way, she completely robs him of the truth of his own identity. She fundamentally alters his reality. He now believes he is a powerful channeler, destined for greatness, when in reality, he is a fraud propped up by the invisible labor of a peasant.
She traps him in a delusion.
And in doing so, she binds herself to him permanently. She can never leave him, or his lack of magic will be exposed. She saved his physical life, but she destroyed his authentic life.
It's such a tangled mess, and because he is now recognized as a powerful channeler, he has to go to the academy to learn how to use his gift.
Which means Éadha has to follow him.
Or he will be exposed on day one. She manipulates her way into being selected as his keeper, the one who weaves the threads, so she can secretly supply his magic.
This brings us to a massive shift in the story. Lambay Island.
The crucible of privilege.
The transition from the grim, starving reality of Ailm's keep to Lambay is jarring. It is the classic disorienting culture shock of stepping into the cloistered halls of the ultra-privileged.
It's wild. They take a boat to this secluded island, and Éadha is suddenly surrounded by wealth she can't even comprehend.
Plush velvet cushions everywhere.
Endless pots of rich hot chocolate, soaring opulent towers, students lounging around wearing fine silk. It feels like a dream. But the shiny veneer hides a deeply toxic, cutthroat environment.
Éadha meets a fellow apprentice named Gry, who is a bit of an outcast himself.
And he breaks down the actual social dynamics for her. He flat out calls the island a family mating zoo.
It is a blunt description, but incredibly accurate to the sociology of the setting.
I had to laugh at that phrase, but it's so dark. It's like the worst aspects of a high school dance, but with eugenics mixed in.
Precisely. Gry explains that Lambay isn't primarily an educational institution. The magical training is secondary.
Its primary function is as a meticulously controlled breeding ground.
The elite families send their teenagers there to pair off, make alliances, and eventually mate with each other, ensuring that the magical gift, and more importantly, the political power and wealth that comes with it, stays strictly within their aristocratic bloodlines.
They are terrified of the power diluting. Gry says they are all secretly terrified of ending up like Ionain's family, losing their magic and having to survive on scraps.
So they hoard the access.
They build walls, both physical and social, to keep everyone else out.
This raises an important question about how elite institutions function in the real world. Think about exclusive prep schools, certain university final clubs, or elite corporate networks.
They often serve as gatekeepers.
They hoard access to resources, to networking, to political power, and they enforce strict conformity to their internal cultural rules. If you don't fit the mold, if you don't adopt their mannerisms and values, you are expelled, marginalized, or destroyed.
The institution protects itself by homogenizing its members.
And we see that homogenizing effect play out instantly in the diverging paths of our two main characters.
Yes, Ionain, the supposed golden boy who passed his reckoning with flying colors, assimilates completely. He dives right into the deep end.
He tells Éadha it's just a game they have to play to survive.
But he gets very comfortable playing it. He makes the right political alliances, he starts hanging out with the cruel aristocratic bullies, and he essentially ignores Éadha in public so he doesn't look bad, associating with a duty commoner keeper.
He justifies his behavior as a necessary survival strategy. He believes he is mirroring their expectations back to them so they don't see his weakness, the fact that he actually has no magic.
But in his desperation to blend in, he adopts the very toxicity of the system he claims to be tricking.
The mask becomes the face.
I want you to think about this. Have you ever watched a friend change their entire personality to fit into a new elite space? Maybe they got a big promotion at work or joined a new group of wealthy friends, and suddenly you don't even recognize them anymore.
They adopt the worst traits of the people around them just to fit in.
And they leave their old friends behind. How did that feel? Watching Ionain do that to Éadha after everything she sacrificed for him is just gut-wrenching.
It isolates her entirely. While he's being celebrated, she is pushed to the margins, enduring the brunt of the institution's cruelty.
And the bullying she endures is horrific. There's this aristocratic girl, Ailm, who is cruel, calculating, and looking for a powerful husband. She sets her sights on Ionain.
And quickly realizes Éadha is a threat to her plans.
Because Éadha and Ionain share a history she can't penetrate. So Ailm confronts Éadha in her small dorm room. She sees Éadha's beloved sketchbook.
A worn, simple thing, but it's the one beautiful object Éadha brought from home, filled with her private art and observations.
Ailm takes it and casually tosses it into the roaring fireplace.
It is a profoundly vicious act. Ailm isn't just destroying a book, she is destroying Éadha's inner life.
The sketchbook represents Éadha's perspective.
Her creativity, her humanity, outside of her role as a servant. By burning it, Ailm is sending a clear message. Your inner world does not matter. You exist only to serve your betters.
It is psychological warfare designed to put the peasant firmly back in her place.
And if the psychological abuse wasn't enough, it escalates to physical torture.
Éadha is assigned to assist a sadistic channeler named Sinan.
Sinan uses her to practice pulling power from the fodder hidden in the caves beneath the island.
He physically and emotionally tortures her during these sessions, forcing her to channel agonizing amounts of energy, draining her to the point of physical collapse.
And he does it purely because he enjoys asserting his dominance over someone he views as less than human. He likes reminding her that he can break her.
Sinan is the embodiment of the system's cruelty.
He thrives on extraction, not just of magic, but of dignity. This constant abuse pushes Éadha to a breaking point.
But crucially, it also pushes her toward an unexpected, transformative alliance.
Which leads us to a phenomenal turn in the story: kinship with monsters.
In the midst of all this polished cruelty, the channelers manage to capture a baby dragon.
They bring it to the island and chain it to a heavy iron floor in the middle of a courtyard.
The masters and the students view dragons as mindless, fiery beasts. To them, the dragon is an obstacle, a monster that exists only to be tortured, studied, and eventually killed for sport during the students' graduation trials.
The dragon serves a vital symbolic role here. It represents the untamed natural world that the channelers seek to dominate and extract resources from.
The system cannot tolerate anything powerful that it does not control.
The dragon is the ultimate other.
But Éadha looks at this chained creature and doesn't see a monster. Feeling like a caged animal herself, battered and isolated, she sneaks down to visit the courtyard in the middle of the night.
And here is where the story gave me absolute goosebumps.
She approaches the iron cage. The dragon looks at her, draws back its scaled lips, and speaks. It uses a word in a language she barely understands. It calls her Mahara.
Sister.
Sister is such a shocking, beautiful moment.
It is a moment of profound recognition across species. The creature deemed a mindless monster by the dominant system immediately recognizes the humanity, the pain, and the raw, untamed power within the girl who has been deemed worthless by that exact same system.
They see each other clearly because they share the same oppressor.
And the way Éadha decides to free the dragon perfectly encapsulates the book's philosophy.
She doesn't just grab a heavy hammer and try to break the iron bars.
She uses her magic.
But she refuses to draw on the fodder, the stolen life force in the caves. Instead, she draws on the pure power of her own heart. She creates a whirlight in her hand.
We should define that for the audience as it's a specific display of power.
Right. A whirlight isn't just a quick flash of fire. It's a sustained, floating ball of raw, glowing energy.
It requires an immense, continuous output of magic.
For a normal channeler, creating a whirlight without drawing on fodder would exhaust them in seconds. But Éadha holds it effortlessly, illuminating the dark courtyard.
Which demonstrates the sheer magnitude of her internal power.
Exactly. She holds this light, and she patiently, night after night, sits with the chained dragon. She teaches it.
She uses her keeper vision to show the dragon how to pull the thread of power from its own belly up into its heart.
She teaches the dragon how to channel its own internal fire, something the trauma of capture had made it forget.
This is a radical act. She doesn't just liberate the dragon physically, she empowers it to liberate itself. It is a stark contrast to the masters, who only know how to subjugate and take power.
Éadha teaches how to generate it. She is acting as an educator and a kin rather than an owner.
The climax of this scene is incredibly cinematic.
It's the night before the dragon is scheduled to be moved to the arena and killed. Éadha sneaks down during a raging thunderstorm. She pours her soul into the creature.
She funnels her massive, pure, unextracted energy into the dragon, giving it the final surge of strength it needs.
The dragon channels that heat, melts the thick iron bars of its cage into slag, throws its head back, roars its pain and its thanks into the rain, and escapes into the stormy sky.
It is Éadha's first true act of undeniable systemic rebellion against the Masters. She stole their prize.
And it is vital to note that her rebellion is an act of creation and liberation, not an act of destruction and subjugation.
This scene fundamentally changes Éadha's psychology.
Hmm.
She realizes that her power, when it is not tainted by the bloody extraction economy, is not something to be feared.
It is beautiful.
This realization of her own worth is immediately compounded by a historical discovery she makes shortly after.
Which brings us to a part of the book that completely shifts the ideological landscape, the true history.
Gry, the apprentice who has been quietly subverting the system alongside Éadha, gives her a forbidden, carefully hidden scroll.
It is a text that is banned on pain of death. It tells the true, unredacted history of a historical figure known as Leah, the sister.
Now, to understand the impact of this, we have to look at the propaganda the channelers teach.
The official histories, the ones taught in the opulent classrooms of Lambay, state that magic has always worked this way.
They teach that it is a fundamental law of nature that the strong must take from the weak, that magic requires fodder, and that the families were ordained to rule.
It presents their cruelty as an unavoidable law of physics. But Leah's scroll reveals a completely different truth.
The scroll reveals that Leah was part of the original founding generation of channelers, but her gift was fundamentally different from her brothers.
She had the ability to channel power from within herself. She generated magic naturally without ever needing to drain the life force of fodder.
Which begs the question, if this incredible self-sustaining power existed at the founding of their society, why was Leah completely erased from history?
Why burn the books that mention her?
Gry's aunt, who preserved the scroll, explains it perfectly in the text. Leah was erased because her power didn't fit with the world her brothers were building.
They wanted a world of fodder, of fortresses, of absolute hierarchy where they sat comfortably on top. Leah didn't want to build empires. She wanted to live in harmony with the land.
Let's dive deep into the psychology of the Masters here, because this is the crux of the socio-political metaphor. Why do authoritarian power structures burn books?
Why do they erase non-exploitative alternatives from the historical record?
Because to maintain an unequal system, you have to convince the oppressed that the system is necessary. If we look at this analytically, Leah, and by extension, Éadha, is the most dangerous thing in the world to the Masters.
It's not just that they have raw magical firepower.
It is that the specific nature of their power invalidates the fundamental lie of the society.
It destroys their excuse.
Exactly. If power can be generated internally, if grand feats of magic do not require the exploitation, imprisonment, and consumption of an underclass, then the entire moral and economic justification for the brutal hierarchy of Domhain collapses instantly.
The elite can no longer look at the starving peasants and say, "We are sorry, but this is just how the world works. Civilization requires sacrifice."
The cognitive dissonance of the Masters relies on the myth of necessity. Leah proved the cruelty was a choice.
And Éadha suddenly realizes she isn't a broken, freakish exception to the rule. She is a living embodiment of an alternative system.
She isn't a peasant who stole a lord's gift. She is the ultimate threat to the lords because she proves that a non-exploitative, equitable world is biologically and magically possible.
It is a staggering paradigm shift for her character. She moves from feeling shame about her power to understanding its revolutionary potential.
Which leads us directly into the breaking point, toxic conformity versus true strength.
Éadha is undergoing this profound awakening, beginning to understand her true worth and the horrific nature of the society she is propping up. Meanwhile, Ionain is sinking deeper and deeper into the system's toxic conformity.
He is addicted to the praise, the silk, the safety of being a master.
It all comes to a head in this incredibly tense, heartbreaking scene in the East Tower.
The contrast between their internal states is at its maximum here.
Ionain is desperate to win Éadha back. He can feel her slipping away, withdrawing her emotional support. He wants to bridge the massive gap that has grown between them on the island.
So on a snowy night, he pulls her onto a secluded balcony in the East Tower.
He uses his keeper training, which she has been secretly supplying the power for, to create an elaborate sensory illusion. He recreates their old, shabby room from Ailm's keep.
The sputtering fire, The worn rug she used to sleep on, the cold stone walls,
Hmm?
everything perfectly reconstructed in the air around them.
It is a stunning display of magical skill and a testament to his vivid memory of their intimacy.
He's trying to say, I remember where we came from, I remember us, but the gesture is fundamentally flawed.
It is so flawed. Here's where it gets really interesting. He tells her he wants to be with her. He says she is his one true thing in a world of liars. He is incredibly romantic, but then he ruins it.
He says, not here, not in this place, hiding away like we're doing something wrong. I want to come to you in the sunlight.
Which sounds poetic until you deconstruct what he's actually asking.
He is asking her to wait.
He is saying, keep being my secret, keep hiding in the shadows, keep fueling my magic from the dark until some mythical future day when I have secured enough political power that the system will somehow miraculously allow a lord to marry a peasant.
His love is entirely, hopelessly conditional on the rules of the system he is actively participating in.
He refuses to claim her in the daylight now because it would cost him his newly acquired social standing. He is too much of a coward to lose his privilege for her.
It is the ultimate tragedy of their relationship. Ionain believes he is playing a long game to survive and eventually change things from the inside. But the game has become his reality.
He cannot conceive of a life outside the parameters set by the masters.
He wants the comfort of the rebellion Éadha's love, but the safety of the oppressor.
And Éadha finally sees him clearly. She sees the cowardice. She realizes he is asking her to be a passive participant in her own subjugation, to keep sleeping on the metaphorical rug on his floor while he sleeps in the warm bed of the elite.
She looks at him and says, I am not your puppet, your avatar for you to manipulate.
And then she does the bravest, most devastating thing she has ever done.
She strips away the illusion.
She looks at the boy she has loved and protected her entire life. She opens her hand and she draws on her own internal strength. She creates a blazing war light right there on the snowy balcony.
The physical manifestation of the truth. An undeniable light that cuts through his elaborate shadows.
She reveals the great lie. She looks him in the eye and tells him, I have the magic, not you. I am the channeler. I passed your reckoning. I brought you here.
The fallout is absolute, earth-shattering devastation. In an instant, Ionain's entire identity shatters.
His belief that he was the savior of his family, his justification for all the cruel politicking he has done on Lambay, his inflated ego, it is all revealed to be a fiction.
He realizes his entire life, his very survival, is a lie constructed and maintained by the peasant girl standing in front of it.
It is a brutal unmasking.
But Éadha realizes something equally painful in that moment. She realizes she was projecting her own desperate hopes onto him.
She wanted him to be the noble hero, the good lord who would save everyone so badly that she stripped him of his agency to force him into that role.
She admits to herself that she thought she was giving him his dream, but she never actually stopped to ask him what he wanted or if he was capable of bearing it.
It is a phenomenal, agonizing breakup scene because they're both so right and so horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Ionain, weeping, says, everything I thought about myself, who I am, who you are, is a lie. I can't go with you.
He is trapped. He cannot leave the safety of the system, even knowing it's a lie.
And Éadha, with her new understanding of her pure power and the horrors of the fodder, can no longer live within that system for another second.
They are fundamentally, tragically incompatible. The ideological divide between them is absolute.
Which propels Éadha into the novel's climax, fighting the Masters. With nothing left to tie her to the illusions of Lambay Island, no one left to protect, she is fully unburdened.
She is ready to tear it down.
She descends into the underground fodder caves beneath the island, intending to do something about the chained people. But she is discovered.
She is cornered in the gloom by 4 of the most powerful masters on the island.
Joan, Ruad, the librarian, and the terrifying sadistic Lord Hueth.
The staging of this final confrontation is brilliant because it pits the 2 philosophies of power directly against each other in a confined space.
The scene is so cinematic. Éadha is backed against a damp stone wall in this cavernous space, surrounded by the comatose bodies of the fodder.
The 4 masters draw their staffs, their keeper standing behind them, their eyes glowing as they prepare to obliterate this peasant girl who knows too much.
But Éadha doesn't just fight them with bigger fireballs. She doesn't try to outmuscle them in a traditional magical duel. She fights the system itself.
This is where her unique keeper vision and her internal magic become her greatest weapon. She understands the mechanics of their power better than they do.
Exactly. The masters are drawing immense, suffocating amounts of power from the fodder around them. Their keepers are frantically weaving thick, glowing silver threads of stolen life force to feed their attacks.
The air is crackling with it.
Éadha, drawing purely on her own internal heart strength, activates her keeper vision. She sees the glowing threads connecting the masters to the dying peasants on the walls.
And she realizes, I don't have to overpower their magic. I just have to cut off their supply chain.
It's a literal strike on their infrastructure.
She reaches out with her own power, fast and precise as a knife, and she begins severing the literal threads connecting the masters to the fodder.
She is slicing the cables of the extraction economy.
The visual of this is striking, and the metaphorical weight is profound. She is quite literally disconnecting the elite from the exploitation that fuels their dominance.
The reaction of the masters is incredible. They start screaming in confusion. They are so arrogant, so used to having infinite power drawn effortlessly from others, that when Éadha blocks their access, their magic just sputters and drops.
They're stumbling in the dark, their spells failing, their staffs going cold.
Their first instinct is to turn and scream at their own keepers, blaming the technicians, completely unable to comprehend that a single, unarmed peasant girl is dismantling their entire infrastructure of dominance.
It is the collapse of the extraction economy in real time. When the workers, or in this case the fodder, are no longer accessible to be consumed, the ruling class is revealed to be utterly powerless on their own.
They have no internal strength. They are hollow shells sustained by theft.
Lord Huas, the most sadistic and arrogant of them all, tries to stop her.
In a desperate move, he leaps high into the cavernous air to strike her down from above, relying on his massive influx of stolen power to fly.
But Éadha looks up at him. She sees the thick, spidery threads reaching out from his keeper, pumping energy into him midair.
She calmly blocks the threads, and Huath just drops.
The horrifying realization hits him in his final seconds, that a man, alone, without anyone to stand on, cannot fly.
He plummets out of the air and crashes into the trees below the cave entrance.
It is a poetic, brutal, and inevitable end to a man who lived his entire life believing he was elevated by divine right, when he was merely elevated by the subjugation of others. Gravity is a great equalizer.
And as Éadha stands there, wounded, exhausted, having broken the master's hold on the caves, she hears a sound over the thunderstorm outside. Who comes back? The freed dragon.
The creature she empowered returns for her.
It lands at the cave entrance, offering its back. Éadha climbs on, and as they launch into the air, they demonstrate a perfect, beautiful loop of mutual strength.
Éadha freely gives the dragon her energy to help it fly through the storm, and the dragon lends her its strength and protection.
They aren't extracting from each other. They are amplifying each other. They are soaring away from Lambay Island, two marginalized beings who found immense power in kinship rather than extraction.
It brings the thematic journey full circle in a deeply satisfying, triumphant way. It proves Leah's history was right.
So let's summarize this massive, transformative journey as we head into our outro. We started in the freezing dark with a terrified peasant girl hiding behind a thought wall, utterly convinced that her only worth was in serving a broken system and propping up a cowardly lord.
And we ended with a dragon-riding rebel who literally severed the threads of an extraction economy, exposed the fragility of the elite, and brought the masters to their knees.
If we distill the ultimate enduring theme from her hidden fire, it is this. True power isn't about what you can extract from others.
It isn't about dominance, or hoarding resources behind velvet ropes, or forcing conformity to maintain a fragile hierarchy. The system in Ionain fell because it relied entirely on taking, which made it inherently brittle.
True, unbreakable power is about what you can generate from your own heart. It is about what you can build through mutual kinship, and what you are willing to share freely without demanding subjugation in return.
Éadha triumphed because she learned how to give without losing herself, and how to fight without becoming the monster she was fighting.
Wow, that is so perfectly said, and it really gets to the heart of what makes this book so special. And it leaves me with a final, lingering thought for you, our listener, directly connected to the deep themes we've explored today.
Think about the spaces you navigate every day.
Your workplace, your community, your industry, the systems that feel permanent and unchangeable. Who are the hidden fodder making those systems run? Whose unseen labor is being extracted to maintain the comfort of the top tier?
And perhaps more importantly, what is the thought wall you've built in your own mind to convince yourself you don't have the power to challenge it?
What ordinary thoughts are you using to hide your own spark?
A provocative and necessary question to carry forward into the real world.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this custom deep dive into Her Hidden Fire by Clíodhna O'Sullivan. We love unpacking these incredible worlds and uncovering these truths with you. Until next time, keep questioning the systems around you and keep looking for that silver thread of your own power. Take care, everyone.